Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. It's 5 o'clock. Make sure you smash the like button, the share button. Yep, I'm talking to you. You never do it. Yes, thank you. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the bell notification button as well. Huge night for Chelsea Football Club. The return leg against Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid. We're going to be previewing that, looking at the predicted lineup, of course, with the likes of Mason Mount and Jorginho, the two top goal scorers under Thomas Tuchel's reign, missing for tonight's game. We're going to be going through that. We're also going to be taking a look at the opposite end of the summer transfer window that's eagerly anticipated by most Blues across the world. And we're going to be looking at who we think may be leaving the Chelsea squad. But I'm also very, very privileged, very, very privileged indeed this afternoon to be joined by one of the biggest Chelsea fans on social media, all the way from New York, currently in Madrid, talking to us here in London, is Elizabeth Helenek. I got the name right. How are you?
Really well, thank you. I'm really nervous for this game. I'm nervous ahead of all Chelsea games usually, but especially this Atletico Madrid game. It's just so massive for us. So yeah, just counting down the hours, really.
Yeah, do you know what? The Champions League games, unfortunately, I'm a Man United fan. We're done. These knockout state games, the second legs, I just have such beautiful memories. It's the nervous energies you build up for them. I've got painful memories of going out. But when you win and go through, which, you've got a great opportunity to do tonight, the excitement that comes with and the euphoria that comes with that is amazing.
Definitely. I would just be so over the moon. Also, my niece and nephew are Atletico Madrid fans, so I really need those bragging rights as well. I had them on my channel earlier, and it would just be so amazing to go through for Chelsea, especially since they haven't gotten past the round of 16 since 2014. It's been so long, so it would be really, really amazing for Chelsea.
And you've got an opportunity. I look at Chelsea as being dark horses this season in the Champions League. Of course, the favourites, Bayern and Man City. You've got Paris Saint-Germain. I would put them as my top three. But the way you've played under Thomas Tuchel, you're barely conceding goals. You have quality players in your team. Do you feel that you've got an outside chance of maybe clinching another Champions League title this year?
It's funny because I had Eunice on my channel and he said, if we beat Atletico Madrid, we can go on to win the Champions League. And I was like, whoa, what are you saying? But Chelsea have been playing really well. I don't know if we necessarily are clinical enough to clinch the Champions League this season. I think that the team in general just hasn't been scoring that many goals. We've been keeping a lot of clean sheets. The defense is really sturdy, but on the other side of the pitch, the attack just isn't fantastic. The players are getting chopped and changed a bit. And like you said, the two highest scoring players under Tuchel, Jorginho and Mount, aren't playing today, but just in general, Chelsea look a little bit uneasy in front of goal. So that's something that I think that you really need to have in order to win a Champions League, and something that Chelsea are just lacking a little bit right now.
Yeah, the goals is the only element. And I think as a rival looking at Chelsea, so we're going to get into the transfer window a little later on in the stream. I'm fearful. I've always been a fan of Thomas Tuchel. I felt that the level of disrespect that he has been given from sort of the football fraternity across Europe has always been, there's something about it. It's always not really stuck very well with me. People said he's overhyped and he's a flop and a bottle job. And I don't really see him in that way. I see him as a very talented young manager who's just on the edge of moving into that same sort of bracket that we consider the Klopps and Peps to be in terms of managerial ability. To catch a Klopp, you've got to win a hell of a lot of trophies, and especially a Pep. But I think he's got the ability to go into that. And with Roman and Chelsea's appetite to spend, which, again, a lot of rivals hate, I just think it's fair play. Like, you won the lottery, you got Roman, he's an amazing owner. You're going to get better and better. And whether that's the likes of Havertz, and Werner coming alive or delving into the transfer market, next season is going to be, I think, where you really come to life. But in the Champions League, the one thing that stands out is that you're not conceding goals, and you've always got that chance, and I think that opportunity to push on further when you're not conceding. And the fact you're doing it as well without any standout world-class centre-backs, I think is real testament to Tuchel's system.
Definitely. I mean, Thiago Silva has been injured since Chelsea played against Tottenham. And when he got injured, I was so nervous because I think that Thiago Silva is completely integral to the Chelsea defense. And now a lot of people are saying, well, maybe he doesn't even start. If it's not broken, don't fix it, which I think is also really surprising. But massive props to Christensen for standing up. I think that he's been doing an incredible job in that Chelsea defense. The back three looks really sturdy. I think that that's helped a lot. Having three defenders on the pitch not only helps you with having an extra defensive minded player, but it also gives you that extra outlet in terms of passing ability, because we know that Chelsea like to typically play out of the back, and sometimes that can be a little bit risky if you give the ball away in a dangerous area. But with that extra person on the pitch, it actually helps to have another outlet as well. So yeah, Chelsea's defense has been really, really strong. Only conceded 2 goals under Tuchel so far. But yeah, I think Atletico are really going to come at us because they know that they need to score a goal.
Yeah, and it's Champions League games. What I love about them, I hate away goals when my team has gone out to them. I want the rule scrapped. I want it finished. But the away goal rule is interesting because they're going to want to come out hard and get that away goal to level things up. At the same time, Chelsea have got a balance between, do we attack? Do we sit back? We don't want to be too negative because we don't want to give any kind of upper hand to Simeone's side. It's getting that balance right. And it's why they're the most exciting knockout games, I think, in world football, because of that away goal rule. And the prize at the end of it is so massive as well. It's getting that balance right. I suppose when we look at the team tonight for Chelsea, we kind of know you're going to stick with the 3-4-3. Who do you think is going to be picked for the fullback roles? Who do you think you'll go with tonight?
This is an interesting one because I don't think that Reece James has been playing amazing so far this season. I think that he looks a little bit more risk averse than he has in the past. He's passing a lot sideways and backwards and not really going forward as much as I think he has in the past. But I do think that we're probably going to see Reece James because he's more defensively minded than Callum Hudson-Odoi. But I actually think that Callum might start in one of the front two as well. Like, let's see, but I wouldn't be surprised if he started for his pace. And on the left-hand side, I don't really like Ben Chilwell that much as a left wing back. I think he looks a lot stronger as a left back. He played against Leeds. Maybe you rest him. I'm not high on Alonso either. Like, he makes me very nervous defensively. But Alonso does offer an attacking threat. And I think given the fact that Chilwell really did have a good game against Leeds, maybe we see Alonso starting this game.
I think Alonso's kind of rebirth under Tuchel has been quite interesting, really. And we'll get on to summer exits later. We had that under Chelsea before when Conte came in. I mean, Conte turned Vicky Moses into one of the best fullbacks in the country for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Some players just kind of suit certain managers' systems like hand to glove, and it works really well. And Ben Chilwell, I do feel like his position at the club, it does sort of feel like it's under threat. The only way he recovers it, really, I think, is if the right signings are made in the summer and maybe you go to a flat back four. So if he brings in maybe a world-class centre-back and you decide to go with 2 at the back rather than 3, I think Ben Chilwell might move forward. But if he wants to remain with three centre-backs and full-backs, I don't really see Ben Chilwell getting back into this team on a regular basis for me. In terms of the attacking roles, a lot of people want. I think Central Park's obvious. Kante, Kovacic. I think everyone would agree that's probably going to be the middle. Who do you pick for your attacking roles? You mentioned Callum Hudson-Odoi maybe being in one. Do you go with Olivier Giroud? He's got that amazing overhead kick in the first game. Do you go with Timo Werner in the centre? I know Hakim Ziyech has had a lot of stick recently. How would you line up at the top?
It's a really interesting question, and this might actually be unpopular. A lot of people want to see Giroud starting, and I wouldn't be unhappy with that. I think he's an incredible player, and like we've seen in the first leg, he can pull an instance of magic out of nowhere. But since Atletico Madrid are going to be playing a little bit higher, I don't expect them to really sit back all that much. I expect them to be playing a little bit more open. Their defenders aren't that quick. So I do think if they're playing a slightly higher line, then we should be playing our attackers that have a lot of pace so that they can try to take advantage of that high line and exploit that potential weakness. So for those reasons, I think that we might see something like Callum Hudson-Odoi with Havertz and Werner.
Yeah, I think for me, I really like the idea of Hudson-Odoi, Werner, and somebody else with a bit of speed, a very fluid front line that could help in the press if you need to do that at some point in the game. But they are going to have to push forward. And I feel with Atletico, they're going to. I think they'll start off slowly. I think they'll actually look at it like, let's not go hell for leather from the first moment of this game and get caught early and then suddenly be 2 goals behind. I think it might be 15, 20 minutes in, they'll start to really elevate. They might even try and keep the game level at 0-0 until maybe the early part of the second half and then go at it. It's going to be intriguing, but I do think you're right. Having that speed, but also that flexibility in the attack to be fluid. So it doesn't really matter if from a corner, Werner's on the right-hand side and Hudson-Odoi is on the left, because they're capable of both playing in that position. I would also like Hudson-Odoi as a fellow Englishman. I'd like Hudson-Odoi to kind of light it up. I do. The only thing I enjoy about watching my rivals do well in Europe is if sort of some of the, from a national interest point of view, I want him to make it a really difficult decision for Gareth Southgate to sort of pick his England squad. So I'd love to see him do it in a Champions League game. There's so many question marks over his head. You receive so much criticism. I think that's unjust. I'd love him to do it as well. On Timo Werner, I mean, this could be the perfect stage for him, though, as well. I know there's been a lot of criticism about his season, doesn't score enough, maybe he's a flop, etc. A lot of talk about maybe doing a swap deal for Haaland in the summer. Do you think this could be the perfect sort of antidote to kind of brush all that aside and say, listen, I'm a Chelsea striker, I'm here to stay, and lay down a marker?
Oh, definitely. And I've been saying this for games and games. When he scored against Liverpool, I was so happy for him, and then it got disallowed. And I was saying, Timo, you got the ball in the back of the net against Liverpool. That's really important, you know. So I think that he's been kind of unlucky. He's hit the woodwork a couple of times. He scored like 5 or so offside goals as well, because the offside rule is just like so finicky this season that I really don't like it. But absolutely, it's the perfect game for Timo Werner to make his mark. Like, what better than a Champions League game against Atletico Madrid to secure the win? So I really hope that he can perform. I think that he has it in him. He just doesn't look that comfortable and confident in front of goal. He looks like he's second guessing himself, or almost trying too hard, and like something that he might not have thought about at all. Now he's overthinking. But I think once he can start getting some momentum, he's going to come in clutch. He's a really strong striker, and he can be very clinical, but we just haven't seen that side of him at Chelsea just yet.
You haven't, and I say this with respect. I don't know how old you were when Didier Drogba had his first season at Chelsea. He suffered with the same problem, that it just took him a year or so to adjust to the speed of the Premier League, the power in the Premier League. And I think Timo Werner spoke about that himself, that he just didn't expect it to be as difficult here as he thought it would be. I think he's also got to be given some time. You know, he's moved to a new country, new city, new culture, new customs, but hasn't actually had an opportunity to really integrate, because he's been stuck in a house or an apartment or a hotel for the majority of the year, like the rest of us. So I think when you throw all that in together, change of manager as well doesn't help anybody. And by all accounts, things did become quite toxic at Chelsea during Lampard's time. So he does need to be given another year for me. And I know that the reports suggest that Roman's so desperate for Haaland, he'd be willing to swap Werner. But I think that could end up being one of those mistakes where you might end up seeing Werner go elsewhere and start scoring again. And you might look at it, although Haaland will come in and score goals, why not have 2 of them? Werner's different from Haaland. He can play off the left, play off the right, can play as a secondary striker. For me, I look at the way you might line up to like your 3-pronged attack. In a year's time, that could be Haaland leading the line with Werner slightly to the left and Cho or Havertz slightly to the left, right of that. To be honest with you, as a rival, that should be illegal.
Haaland coming to the Premier League is just going to be illegal, honestly. Like, whichever team gets him, if he goes to City, forget about it. Like, they'll be winning the league every year.
Forget about it. You couldn't sound more like a New Yorker if you tried. Forget about it. I love it. Before we go on to a little bit about the summer predictions, we're going to do some calls in a minute as well, viewers. So we're going to share the link in the comment section and on the Discord server for you to come on and have your say, to ask any questions about tonight's game. We're going to talk about some maybe potential exits in the summer coming later. But there's been a lot of stuff trending today on social media about Thomas Tuchel. Has he really improved Chelsea? Are you that much better than under Lampard? Do you think it's, I know hindsight's very lucrative, but do you think, looking at the improvements under Tuchel, that it was the absolute right decision to remove Frank Lampard when you did?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really difficult decision, but just look at the games. Chelsea were losing almost every game. I think they lost like 5 or 6 and 8 games, and it didn't seem that he really had any ideas for how to improve and how to make a change. And it seems that there were like a couple of players that he just lost the dressing room with, that there was a miscommunication. And something that I read that I really like about Tuchel says that he's very open with the players and everybody knows where they stand. And I think it was like the first training session, he pulled aside Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho and said, hey, I'm going to be playing all of you guys. I want you to be an example for the rest of the team. Sometimes one of you is going to get rested because I'm only going to be playing 2, and it depends on your fitness and the opponent, etc. And I think that he's really done this with all of the team and all of the players. And I think that the philosophy that he's implemented, that Chelsea were conceding a ton of goals, we couldn't keep a clean sheet for the life of us. Now we keep a ton of clean sheets. I think that it really speaks a lot. And now it's just fixing that attacking part of the pitch, which is the most difficult to do.
Yeah, I agree. And as the great Sir Alex Ferguson said, attacks win you games, defenses win you titles. So fixing the defensive element first and then the attacking part, it's the right way round to go. And if you actually look at your performances in the Premier League since he's been in, there's been a couple of draws. I think maybe 3 draws, 3 ties that you've had. And once you improve that goal scoring, they're going to turn into wins. But you've dominated all the games. You've been the better team in all of the games. You've had the majority of the chances, possession, etc. Your form isn't too far behind City in that same time period. It's just been a little more potent up front. And that's why I think there's this big message to Premier League fans that be very scared of Chelsea moving forward, because whether it's Werner and Havertz absolutely coming alive, Hudson-Odoi developing further, and or Haaland joining, once that fixes itself, Chelsea will be challenging for Premier League titles next year. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. And we're going to go to a couple of callers here. First caller on the line is going to be Abs. Abs is with us here. What are you saying, mate?
All right, what are you saying, Terry? You good, bro?
All good, all good. What do you want to say?
So the whole Atletico thing, I think, what? Despite what everyone says about them being really good defensively in this season, they've gone up a level in terms of their potency in attack. I think they might actually play into our hands. Because if you think about the history of Diego Simeone, he's never been someone who's heavily reliant on being fluid, but he's got the players to play, a fluid system, So, it could end up being that he focuses all his energy on, Joao Felix and Suarez and even Carrasco trying to get into our defense. But then what it means is that if we start, for instance, Werner, Cho, and Havertz, it could actually work to our benefit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that very much echoes what Elizabeth said earlier in relation to attacking maybe a higher line, having that fluidity up front. So I assume you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we know that they need to attack, because if they draw this game, they're not going through. So definitely, I think that they're probably going to play a higher line. Hopefully, there will be more space. In the first leg, they had like 6 players in the back. I don't think we're going to see that in this game. So like I said, players that are pacier, like a Havertz, like a Werner, could really take advantage of that line. And it's just down to them being clinical enough to finish those chances, because I do think Chelsea are going to get them in this game.
Absolutely. Abs, great call. Thank you very much for coming back on as always, mate. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Next up, we've got Man Lucky Gao here, Arsenal fan, a member of the Football Terrace, one of our panelists and soon to be hosts as well. Oh, we won't let the cat out of the bag on that one. What do you want to say, bro?
First, I want to say hi to you. I've never met you before. Big up to Chelsea on the low. I hate Chelsea. I'm not going to lie to you as an Arsenal fan. But big up to you for what you're doing. I think you guys are probably gonna squeak through. I think it's gonna be tight, but I feel like Chelsea could just squeak through. Atletico Madrid really let me down in the first leg, losing 1-0. So at this point, I don't think Atletico Madrid are gonna win. I think it's gonna be a close game, and it's gonna end a draw, and Chelsea's just gonna edge it. But when it comes to, I really wanted to come on here, Terry, because I said something earlier on Twitter and it started a debate, and I really wanted for people on the terrace to hear it. I generally feel like, this is going back to Arsenal now, I generally feel like it would be progress. There would be some progress in Arsenal finishing 10th, but still winning the Europa League, in comparison to us somehow just ending up the season wherever we are. I generally feel like at the end of the day, if we do win the Europa League, there would be a sense of progress. And people who dispute that, I don't know. But the question I ask to everybody here is, if Arsenal finish in 10th, but still win the Europa League, do you see that as progress, or do you just see that as a disappointing season because the league position is 10th?
What's your thoughts on that, Elizabeth?
It's an interesting one. I do think it could be progress, because I don't think that Arsenal really have won like much. Well, they won the FA Cup against us, but to win in Europa, that would be massive for them. And if you win the Europa League, you get into Champions League next year, the following year, right? So it would be massive to guarantee a Champions League spot. So it doesn't really matter if you come in 10th or not, but just like to have like a winning mentality for Europe as well, it would be massive for your team.
Yeah.
Look, obviously we're here mainly talking Chelsea, but just on the Arsenal thing, as you brought it up, I think it depends on how you do it, because if you like die in the league towards the end of the season, performances are bad losses, whatever it may be, bad forming players, and you kind of scrape a win. And I'm not saying scraping a win doesn't make you celebrate, but there's winning a tournament and being the best team remaining. So if all your remaining European games, from an Arsenal point of view, are as good as you've started the whole campaign, you were great in the group stages, you've been good so far in the knockout stages. If that maintains, then yes. But if you kind of end up with all the big teams knocking each other out and you get a fairly easy route and you scrape the final 1-0, I don't know if it demonstrates actual progression. So I think it's about how you play, how you win, and how you end the league to be able to state that. So what you've seen at Chelsea since Tuchel's come in is a progression in the time under Tuchel compared to Lampard. But that needs to be sustained. If the end of the season is as bad, the last 10 games in the league, and they lose tonight 3-0, and then the last 10 games of the league campaign are as bad as Lampard's final 10 games, then people will start to question whether there's actually been progression and not just a flash in the pan. So I think it's how you finish, the performances that you put in, who you beat as well is always really, really important, because when Man United won the Europa League, I celebrated. We didn't play a difficult team the whole way through. We didn't get any of the Champions League dropout sides. We didn't get anybody that shouldn't be in that tournament in terms of that. So it really does depend, I think, until we get to that. Get to that point there. We're going to add another caller in here. We're going to throw TJ in. TJ's a Chelsea fan. What do you want to say, mate?
No, Terry, I'm an Arsenal fan.
Oh, you're an Arsenal fan. Sorry, I saw the blue kit. What do you want to say then? We're not mainly talking Arsenal here. We are talking Chelsea. If we can help it, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no bother. I was just going to say they're starting to build a team that I'm starting to get scared of. Defensively, they've been incredible. Barely leaking in any goals. I would say the only problem, I don't know if Chelsea fans would agree, but the only problem from the outside looking in, they're making chances, fair enough, but they're not scoring them. But that can be resolved if they get Erling Haaland, if Timo Werner plays a bit better, etc.
Yeah, we've very much covered that on the show, and yeah, we all agree that's the scary point. And the great thing, it must be a great thing being a Chelsea fan, that your club's going to spend money. The club isn't going to pull a Liverpool or a Man United or an Arsenal and pretend there's no cash and say sorry, it's not happening. Roman's digging deep into them big pockets and saying let's go take this title back from City. That must be such a lovely feeling.
Yeah, it made this transfer window, well, the past one in the summer, felt like Christmas, because there was one week where we were getting new signings like every couple of days, and it was incredible. And I think it gives like a lot of fans hope as well that we can go out and sign Haaland, and it just shows the club's ambitions that, like, Chelsea haven't really been competing in the Champions League recently, and they haven't won the league in a couple of years as well. So it shows that they're ambitious to try to sign players who are going to make a difference and do that because they want to be competing on all fronts.
No, absolutely. TJ, thank you for your call. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. So I wanted to, are you going to stay with us, Igal?
I was just going to ask one quick question.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Do you feel like Chelsea are on track to catch when Man City and Liverpool's drop-off happens with the young players that you have, or do you feel like you still need a lot of pieces to even get there?
Well, I think that we've seen Liverpool's drop off is happening this season. I think that that was a bit unprecedented for me, just how far that they've dropped off. But we can see that Chelsea have been recently playing better than Liverpool, and they really need to sort out their scoring situation there. City are a different animal. I think that they're the benchmark. Chelsea have a lot of really young players, and I think that the more chemistry that they build together, the better. I think we're going to see them come in really, really clutch next season. They're going to have more time to play together, to gain an understanding, to try to gain some chemistry. Hopefully Tuchel will be able to implement his ideas as well. If Chelsea get Haaland, then I think absolutely. But he may go, if City get Haaland, then I think it's going to be pretty difficult for any team to compete with that.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel I've said already with Haaland, I stand by this. If Chelsea or City sign him, he'll break the single season goal scoring record in the Premier League within 30 games, because both your teams create the chances, and he annoys me. He's so good. He is. He's an absolute monster. Listen, Igal, thank you very much for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really do appreciate that, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. We'll go to some more calls a little bit later on in the show. I wanted to ask about the summer, though. So we know Haaland may be coming in. Let's talk about a few. He's the main name linked to Chelsea. Who do you think could be a casualty? Ben Chilwell's name's come up. Pulisic's name keeps getting mentioned. Tammy Abraham is another. There's a lot of people saying you can't afford Haaland, even with Chelsea's money, but there's a hell of a lot of money to be raised by the sale of players. Are there anybody that you think are sort of cruising for a bruising in many ways and potentially going to be going through the exit door this summer?
Yeah, it's really interesting because there are so many players that I thought for sure were going to be sold this summer, and then they've become regular starters under Tuchel. I thought that Rudiger was going to be leaving this summer. I thought Jorginho was going to be leaving as well. They're both looking for contract extension, so it really could go either way with them. I don't think that I would be really surprised if Chelsea sell Ben Chilwell just because they just bought him. He was really expensive and he's still young, so I think he could still come in good for Chelsea. I think that would be a bit premature to sell him. I think that if Chelsea were to really go in full for Haaland, we could see Tammy Abraham leave. I wouldn't blame him. I mean, the club have already signed attackers like Havertz and Werner, and he really hasn't been playing that much under Tuchel right now. He's injured, but he's holding off on signing a contract extension because he wants to see if they sign Haaland in the summer. And I think if we sign Haaland, he's gone.
Yeah. Listen, I like Tammy. I think he's a decent player. The problem is, there's just it doesn't matter how an agent or a manager tries to spin it. You're not, unless Haaland's injured, you're not playing in front of him. There's no doubt about it. And Chelsea just need to ensure that they don't. Having academy players is really great. It is really, really good. But when you look at Hudson-Odoi and you look at Reece James, I just think Tammy's a level or two below that in terms of overall quality. And Chelsea shouldn't drop their standards just so they can say, we've got 3 academy players in our first team, if that makes sense. You should always be aiming to be as high as possible. What's your thoughts on Hakim Ziyech?
It's an interesting one. When we signed him, I said out of all of the summer signings, he was going to be the most influential, that he's 27, already in his prime. He's played in the Champions League. He has that experience. So I didn't think it would take him that much time to get adjusted to the Premier League either. But he's somebody who's been really struggling. And I think that, getting in, we have to remember that Hakim Ziyech really has not played that much football. The Dutch league ended in March, and then he didn't get a preseason with these. So he was basically 6 months or more without playing a competitive game of football. He comes back in the preseason for Chelsea, gets injured in their first friendly, and then he kind of was in and out, and he's been injured. Then his return coincides with Chelsea's terrible form, where I can't place it just on him because everybody was playing really poorly. And now in this change of formation under Tuchel, I don't quite see where he fits in. I think that perhaps in that 10 role, but we haven't been seeing too much of him. And he's probably a player that requires a little bit more consistent game time in order to be able to produce anything. So I still have faith in him. I want a little bit more from him since he's older. He's been giving away the ball a lot. I don't think he's been producing that much. I don't think that he's been impressive in the game time that he's had. But I understand why, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. I suppose the question when it comes to Hakim Ziyech is the system and the formation mainly that's going to be played, because he's a right-sided inside forward. I don't know if he can play that kind of 10 support strike. I don't know what we call it now. Every year there's a new hipster word for it, but that kind of number 10 secondary striker role, I don't know if that's for him. He likes starting on the right, and he likes to drift in as opposed to starting centrally and drifting out wide. So it really depends on the system, and I suppose that's the problem when you're a player and you sign for Frank Lampard's sort of philosophy and formation, and then a new manager comes in. You always end up with these kind of casualties. I think if you ran a poll 6 months ago and said, who do you want starting as our fullback or our wing back, Alonso or Ben Chilwell, Chili B, as everybody was calling him, would have been, you would have had an 80-90% of the vote go for him. I think it's now almost gone in the other direction. I do think Hakim Ziyech could be someone, again, that's used either as a make weight for someone like Borussia Dortmund to say, how about £50 million and Hakim Ziyech? Along those lines, he could go. Another interesting one for me, because I'm worried about playing against him tomorrow night myself as a Man United fan. Tomori, he kind of left, and he left, and it was almost frustrating for Chelsea fans to see him go, because last year he had moments where he looked so good. People were touting him for England, and then he just didn't get back in the team. And he himself, I think, has said that he didn't know what he had to do. He was told to work harder. He worked harder, still no communication. He goes to AC Milan, and Baresi, one of the greatest football players, greatest defenders in the history of the game, has said he's brilliant. He's killing it in Serie A. Is he a player that you think you should look to reintegrate into the team next year? Could save you a hell of a lot of money in the transfer market? Or do you think his days at Stamford Bridge are numbered?
It's a difficult question, because I think, like, if it were up to me, I would definitely take him back. I'm a really big fan of his, and I really like him a lot. But it seems that there may have been, I don't want to say bridges burned, but just something at Chelsea wasn't working. And I don't know if he could get back that relationship with the club, or if he I don't know if he necessarily even wants to go back to the club with the way that things went down. So I don't blame him for going to Milan. I know that he wanted more game time at that age. That's super important as well. But it is a massive blow for Chelsea, because I think, like, perhaps if Tuchel had come in a little bit earlier, maybe we would have seen Tomori stay. Who knows? But asking those kind of questions doesn't help. He's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. But I think Milan just have an option to buy, not an obligation. So it's possible we could see Tomori return in the summer.
Yeah, it's I suppose from a fan point of view, it's so hard, isn't it? Because what you don't want to see is a KDB, a Mo Salah situation where, he does a year or two at AC Milan, they buy him, and then Man City or Liverpool bring him in, and he just becomes an absolute superstar in the Premier. You just look at him and think, he was ours, he was our guy. Or the other end, you do a Paul Pogba and you have to drop £70 million to get your own academy player back, which is just, it's not great. But we will see. We will see. There's a super chat here that says, Tammy Zamora, Hudson-Odoi and Emerson are the most likely to leave. Ziyech could go if Dybala gets moved. Can you see Hudson-Odoi leaving?
No, I don't think so. I think that Tuchel has made it very clear that Hudson-Odoi is a very important player for Chelsea, and under him, and he's been getting a lot of game time. He's been playing really well, so I don't see Callum leaving. No,
I don't think so. Not this year anyway. It would be strange. A lot of game time, multiple positions. It's quite clear. Are there any others that you think? I mean, Christian Pulisic, I know obviously as a fellow American, there's a lot of hype around him. That he's the golden, probably the best American footballer to ever play in the Premier League. Landon Donovan played here, and Clint Dempsey are the other two that really stand out as being good, but he's levels above. Do you think he's hit his potential, or do you just think, for me, I like him, but I feel like his body's made of biscuits and just he breaks down quite a lot? Do you feel that he's got a future at Chelsea, or is the writing on the wall?
I hope that he has a future at Chelsea because he's one of my favorite players. And I think that we've seen what an incredible player he can be post restart. He was one of the main reasons why Chelsea secured top 4. And I think that it doesn't help that there's been this condensed schedule that we're seeing that so many players all over the Premier League and other leagues as well are getting injured. There's a lot more injuries this season. It's very difficult to deal with. So that doesn't help somebody like Pulisic getting a new manager as well. Tuchel has come out and said maybe he's been unfair to him, a little bit biased because he worked with Pulisic at Dortmund and knows how good he can be coming off of the bench in the last 20 or 30 minutes. The formation also doesn't suit him incredibly as well. We've been seeing Pulisic play more on the right. I think he's more of like an out left winger. I don't quite think that he's as what's the word? I
get where you're coming from. I don't think he is. I think he looks a little bit like a fish out of water more centrally than he does when he's out wide. I think he likes the touchline and come in from a little bit like, I think a little bit like Ziyech in the sense. I completely got what you were saying. It did actually need a word. Football is a universal language. You just know what people mean. I look at Ziyech and Pulisic very similar. They like to hug a touchline and cut in, where I think with the Werners and the Havertzes of this world and Mason Mount, they like to start central and drift. And so they're almost the polar opposites of each other in terms of the progressive runs and movement they have on the field of play. And that just could be the issue with him as well. It is this system. I suppose the benefit for Chelsea, though, with Ziyech, Pulisic, Tomori, a lot of money could be raised from both of those two players to help fund the signings that are actually going to elevate the squad. You mentioned Haaland, maybe a world-class centre-back. There is still some and ahhing about the left-back position. Maybe they'll go after somebody else who's more of a, it's almost that element of you want a better defender than Alonso and someone better going forward than Ben Chilwell that can play in that position. So maybe they'll look to sort of break the bank in those areas. At least a lot of money could be raised.
Yeah, it's true. I honestly think it would be a mistake selling Pulisic. He was so incredibly good, and I think that it could turn into one of those situations like a Salah or De Bruyne. I think that with just consistent, he hasn't had consistent game time. That plays a massive part. You're not playing consistently with players, not playing in the same position. He hasn't had all of them. He's had like 200 or 300 minutes, I think, to prove himself under Tuchel, which is nothing. And especially when you're coming back from injury, you really need that time to get back to match fitness. So I think he's overthinking it a little bit, like most Chelsea attackers right now. They're all really eager to impress, and they're all kind of like fluffing their shots, I think. So I don't know. I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Pulisic. I think that he's such a good player. I think that it would be a mistake to sell him. But yeah, I mean, if Chelsea wants to sell one of their higher assets, you could get a lot of money for Pulisic, and teams like Liverpool and United and Bayern Munich are looking at him.
Yeah, this can happen. Are there any other? I'm not too afraid with what's going on with the American game. Are there any other sort of youngsters coming through similar to Pulisic or of that same grade in quality that we should be looking out for in Europe?
I think like Pulisic is just like on a level of his own. Gio Reyna is playing at Borussia Dortmund. He's the one that really pops into mind for me. Okay,
fair enough. A subject of contention on the football terrace. We have one of our main panelists, David. He's not a great fan of Mason Mount. I mean, when I say not a fan, Mason Mount can be the highest creator on the pitch, score the winning goal, and he's still not happy with him. He consistently, you'll see it in the comments very soon. David has one of the worst takes on Mason. His take on Mason Mount is one of the worst takes that I have ever seen a fan have about one of their own players. It's worse than the Man United fans' disrespect to Marcus Rashford. How good do you think Mason Mount is? And do you feel that he gets disrespected by a sort of certain section of fans? He was called the teacher's pet for Frank Lampard. Same thing for being in the England squad. But Tuchel seems to absolutely love him.
Yeah, I want to have words, man. I mean, people are saying that Lampard, that he just played because he was Lampard's son or whatever. Well, looky here, he's playing every game under Tuchel as well. So Mason Mount is such an important player for Chelsea. And I was looking at the stats from the previous Atletico Madrid game. He had the most presses out of any player on the pitch. So he was the one who was really pressing to get the ball back when the Atletico players had it, or to try to like limit the amount of time that Chelsea were without the ball. He had the most dribbles in the game, three times more than any other player. He had the third most progressions in the game, only behind Kovacic and Jorginho. He's a goal threat as well. And let's not forget, he's only 22. He's only 22 and he's doing all of this. Frank Lampard was not that good when he was 22, and he's come out and said it, that he wasn't scoring that many goals. And look where he came to become. Mason Mount is not, I don't want to say Mason Mount is going to become Frank Lampard. That's not the point. But the point is that Mason Mount is still so young. He still has so much room for improvement, and he's already this good. So just imagine how good he's going to be in 2 or 3 years. Not only that, but like his mentality is just incredible. All of these players came in, they were saying, oh, Mount's not going to play, he's going to be benched because of Havertz and Butt, and he's like, I'm going to compete with them because I'm going to be starting for Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of years ago, I didn't see it. I thought I looked at him from a rival's lens and said, I think he's average at the elite level. So when I say average, I'm talking when I'm comparing him to other elite level players, not average in general across all of football. But the progression under him has been amazing. And when everybody, as you say, was Lampard's son, he must have nudes, re-te-te. So let's see what happens with Tuchel. The fact that I think he played more minutes than anybody else since Tuchel's been there shows you he's such a top player. And it can be an embarrassment for sort of social media fans who push those agendas and then get let down. I'm a United fan. One of the biggest reasons I want to see, it's a personal reason that I want to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer replaced, is a lot of Man United fans show a lot of disrespect to Bruno and Rashford and Scott McTominay. I want those fans to get the manager they want. I want them to get a Nagelsmann. I want them to get a Poch. And then I want to see what their reaction would be if those 3 players keep getting picked still. If those players keep getting picked still, then I want to understand what your reaction is to that then. And Mason Mount has shut so many people down indeed. We always do a few little games at the end where we ask you some questions about either or either. But I mentioned David, who has a massive Mount agenda. He's just turned up in the backroom area as well. Are you happy to talk to him?
Yeah, let's go for it.
This guy, he's a good guy, really. He's not a bad guy at all. David's with us now. What are you saying, David?
I'm good. I was watching and I saw in the comments. I was playing a game of FIFA with my mate, and I see in the comments, "Oh, Mount agenda. David hates Mount." So I was like, "I've got to come on and defend myself just for a little bit." Well, no. My only thing with Mason is I think he's good and he'll be really good in the future. I just don't think right now, like, he's the kid we should be relying on. I don't think we should be relying on any kid, like, at all. I think we really need to look at our older players and think, one of you's got to take the mantle, because having him as our main guy is a problem because he's young and inevitably they have ups and downs. And when your best player has ups and downs, your team tends to trend in the same way. And that's why I think we're in the position we are.
I think he's been one of the most consistent players, not only last season, but this season as well. When Chelsea haven't been playing well, he's been one of the only players that put 110% out on the pitch. Even when we were playing so badly under Lampard and we were losing every game, Mason was still putting in good performances. And he's 22 years old, but I think he's like much more mature than that.
Again, I'm not denying his effort. I think his effort's fantastic, but again, my big thing on him is his end product, and he really slightly lacks it.
He's 22, David. He's 22.
I know, and you're literally saying what I'm saying. I understand he's 22, which is the exact reason why he shouldn't be that person. Like, I can see where he's going, but right now I don't see that player that everybody's talking about. And like Terry will tell you, I'll come on stream, he'll have an average game. I'll say his game was average. Everyone will be like, "What are you talking about?" No, he was the best player on the pitch, undoubtedly, no question about it. And I'll just be there like, "Hold on, let's just relax."
David, he can have a really good game, and you'll still play it down. That's why people say when you say that about he shouldn't be our main attacking threat because he's 22. We should have bigger and better and older players. That's fair. But what you also do, not to for full disclosure here, is he'll have a really good game, and then someone will drop a bit of a slip of the tongue and say, "Oh, he was perfect today," and no player's ever perfect, and you just straight. Like you react, it's so quick. It's like, no, he ain't perfect. You're so quick to jump on Mason Mount. It's mad.
Yeah, but unfortunately, unfortunately, I've been put in a position where every time he does something, everyone's like, "Wow, look at what he's doing, David." I'm like, "Yes, well done. You've identified my thing." Because every time he scores a goal, my phone lights up, and I'm getting people being like, "Oh, David, I told you. See, look at what he's doing." I'm like, I'm literally said what I want to see more of is his end product. That's literally I thought he has.
I think he's showing that. He's one of the highest goal scorers under Thomas Tuchel. He is showing. Chelsea aren't scoring goals, and Mason Mount is.
We need to score more. I do think we need to score more goals. We do lack a clinical edge. I think that's true. That's not on Mason. That's not on Mason. That isn't on Mason. But my thing is like 6 out of 10 games, Mason Mount will have what I call a Mason Mount performance, where he progresses the ball really well. There's all the flicks and tricks. It's really good, but there's just nothing at the end, right? And then I'll come on and be like, "Oh, I just need to see that." And Man United and Liverpool. Oh no, hold on. Against Man United and Liverpool. I literally came on and said it. Against Man United, everyone said he was player of the match. I said he would have been. However, he did his little mazy dribble run where he beat 3 people, and then at the end he decided to Ronaldo chop and go on his weak foot and mess everything up. Then against Liverpool, he did the exact same thing, except he just went on his strong side, one touch, bang, goal. And I was like, that is a clear marked improvement for me from one game to another, where I want to see him do more of that. He does more of that. I literally said, he does more of this, he becomes... I know, if he does more of it, I'll become a Mason Mount fan very quickly. That's my thing with him. That is my only thing with him. I don't hate him. I actually... the better... I don't think people understand. The better Mason Mount does, the happier I am as a Chelsea fan. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to want him to fail. It doesn't make sense at all.
I hear you. We'll play a little game because I know you've got to go in 5 minutes. I want to ask you a question, and I want you to give us honest, straight answers. It's not there's no lie detector test or anything, but it's just straight up. So you've got a choice right now. We're going to give you 2 different questions, 2 different choices. First choice is Chelsea have got an option this summer: Mbappe and Neymar, or Haaland and Sancho. Which of the 2 are you signing?
Haaland and Sancho.
Okay.
Easy.
For what reason? What would be your reason?
I think that I don't know. I'm not a really big fan of Neymar, to be completely honest with you guys. Sorry. But I really rate Haaland and I really rate Jadon Sancho. And I think that Haaland is just a goal scorer that Chelsea are really lacking, and he just creates out of nothing. And he's just a complete monster and super clinical. And I really want Haaland in the team. So, like, basically whatever you gave me, I would pick Haaland.
Whoever else is with. David, how about yourself, mate? Who would you pick?
Haaland and Sancho. I watch them week in, week out. I know what they're going to bring to the table. With Mbappe and Neymar, it's like I only see them on the Champions League. And again, sometimes they'll have stinkers. Haaland and Sancho will have stinkers, but I can see where they're going. And I'm like, I need Haaland. That's the guy.
I hear you on that one. Here's a midfield one for you. I like this one. Marco Verratti or Paul Pogba?
Ooh, I don't actually know. I always hated playing against PSG because I feel like Verratti always came up like against us and always had an incredible game. But I also really like Paul Pogba too. And Paul Pogba, I'll go for Pogba because he has the Premier League experience.
That's great logic. I love that. That's smart. David?
Pogba. We need more creative play from our deeper midfield, and I don't think Verratti gives us that more than Pogba did.
I hear you on that. Elizabeth, I just wanted to say a massive thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. We're going to continue to take some calls and everything else. Absolute pleasure speaking with you. I want to say good luck tonight, but I am a Man United fan, so I'm just going to say I hope you enjoy the game. Maybe not the result as such. What we'll do is we'll put a link at the end to your YouTube channel in the description below so everybody can come across and subscribe to you. Just let everyone know where they can find you on socials.
Perfect. Yeah, you can find me at Ellie_Helenek on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel as well, Elizabeth Helenek. Instagram, Elizabeth Helenek as well. And I'm about to hop on Premier League today, so you can catch me on TV sometimes as well.
Yes, so this is very famous lady, absolutely killing it in football. Keep doing your thing, great knowledge and everything else. And we'll look forward to having you back on the show again soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Bye, guys.
See you later. Bye-bye. So, yeah, David, how are you feeling about tonight, mate?
Oh, I'm worried. I'm very worried. They've got all their players back now, and we are missing Jorginho and Mason. So it's not ideal. But hopefully we can pull through.
You know what? Tonight may be we didn't actually get into this with Ellie, like in the sense of you may find you actually notice tonight more than ever what Mason Mount brings when he's not in a big game from a creative point of view, because you do maybe you lack in that area. I'm not too sure. It's going to be an interesting one. Big night. Do you think Havertz will start?
I think he will. It's a big night for him and Werner tonight, because it doesn't matter what I say or you say around. Fans have got to be patient. Fans don't listen to advice. They do what they do. And if you have a bad game in front of goal tonight and you go out, it's those moments where people switch. It's those moments where people turn. Does that make sense? On particular players. And the football fan in me hopes they have a good night. The Man United fan in me hopes they bomb, because I don't want to see them do well in that kind of regard. But I'm excited about it tonight. I thought last night's games were just, you kind of knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, and it happened early, so it was like, nah, okay, nothing. Tonight's great because this is a game where normally it's the next round's going to be the amazing one, because there's no weak teams really left in it. Porto, you could argue, are a weak team and whatnot, but the next round's going to be massive. But tonight's a huge game. Many trials and tribulations, many ups and downs. Yeah, I'm very.
However, if we go out and like really perform against them, yeah, you'll know what I'll be on. You'll know exactly what I'll be on.
Do you think you can win it though? Do you think you can win it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think more than anything, I think we won't concede goals. That's what I think more than anything. We don't concede a goal tonight, we go through. That simple. Can we score one goal against us?
Actually, if you don't, that's actually obvious.
You don't concede. Because obviously it's two legs. Like, obviously, if we don't concede tonight, we've got the 1-0 lead, then we go through. Can we equal as many as Atletico score? I think we can. My only worry is if they were to score an early goal, what does that do? That's the big worry.
They have the advantage because you have. This is the thing with the Champions League this season. You don't. Whenever you have the away leg second, you have the advantage that if it goes to extra time, you get 30 extra minutes to score an away goal. But there's no away fans. So if they score early, every goal for them is essentially worth 2 for you, if that makes sense. If they score another goal, you've got to score twice. If they score another one, you've got to score 3, 4. So you're in a situation where if they score early, the pressure on Chelsea is massive. This is when we really will see how good some of these Chelsea players are and how good Thomas Tuchel is in this moment. Of course, they can all get better, because if you concede early, the worst thing you can do is open up and let yourselves crumble. I would just say stick to the game plan and keep them at bay, because you still only have to beat them on the night. If you win on the night, you go through because you're 1-0 up from the first leg. It's those moments where you see how good they're nice acid tests for how good a team is, how good a manager is, and how far away you are from being a great side, because you kind of feel like if Man City were going into this game against Atletico 1-0 up and went 1-0 down early, you'd still
back them. You still back them,
and they'll turn it around. Where I feel like with Chelsea, there is still a question mark, because we haven't really seen you yet go through adversity under Tuchel. And I'm really intrigued to see that happen. But I mean, we're saying all this, it might end up being a board. I mean, they nearly scored. Change subject. They nearly scored early in the last game. Do you remember, like, when Mendy nearly gave the penalty away?
Oh my God! Don't remind me.
It could have been such a different game.
There was one where Adoy comes
really good.
Adoy came around the back post and blocked off Lamard.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. KJ's with us now as well. How are you feeling about tonight's game, bro?
Oh man, I hope Atletico sink these, man. You see that brother in the blue cap? I need to see him tears, bro. That's what I want to see. But in all honesty, yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. Yesterday I said 2-0. That's our blind hope. That's our blind hope. Chelsea have got a big advantage. They've got a big advantage there. And as long as they're just defensively solid, they're going through. But man, just got to hope for that 2-0 Atletico, man. That's all I can hope for.
Do you know what I want? Like, I don't really care who goes through, to be honest, at this point. I just want I want a really good game. I feel like the Juve game last week was absolutely out of this world. There hasn't really been another game there was 2 good games last week. They were at the same time. The Juve and the Dortmund game were amazing. Every other game outside of that so far, I feel it's just been a little bit underwhelming, a bit undercooked, a little bit sort of pasta no sauce. I'm hoping tonight for a really good game where you're sort of on the edge of your seat. It's a little bit nail biting at the right times and stuff like that. I really do hope that we get that out of this match, and it'd be a good marker for Thomas Tuchel as well to beat almost instantly a top manager, the best team in Spain right now, and it would also make me quite happy to see Kendo in the mud again. We both.
If they be Atletico, yeah, boy, listen. Chelsea for the Champions League, bro. You can't deny it, fam. You know what I'm saying? Chelsea will be back.
Hey.
Chelsea will be back if they do.
It depends on the randoms. Because what happens if we draw Bayern again? Then it's an L. It's an L. We just
then the word Tuchel tactics and that, bro.
Tuchel tactics can't outdo Lewandowski against Christensen. It can't happen. There's no tactic against that. We're done for. We're done for if that happens.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting one. In terms of the other things we spoke tonight about with Ellie, we were looking at players that you think may leave Chelsea in the summer because there's talk of big bands coming in. Who do you think's vulnerable, David? Who do you think, based on who Tuchel's picked, the formation he's looking, the other players he's looking to bring in, who do you think could be at risk of losing their position in the squad or at the club?
Kepa, we want to get rid of, but it depends whether someone takes him. Emerson, we already know the price. I think it was like 17 mil. Something like that. Tammy Abraham. Let me think. Centre backs. I think one of the centre backs could go. One of Zuma or Christensen or Rudiger. One of the 3. Woo! We've got a lot of nonsense in this squad. A lot of nonsense.
Okay, you named a lot of obvious people though, but what about some of the non-obvious? The Ben Chilwells, the Ziyech's, the Pulisic. Do you think they're at threat?
I think the only one at threat out of those 3 is Ziyech. Maybe Ben Chilwell's a weird one because I think Ben Chilwell, when we go to a 4, will be quite useful. I think it's just. I think for now it's a system thing more than a lack of quality thing.
I hear you on that. We've got Monser who's going to come on and have his say quickly. Monser, what do you want to say, bro?
Hi guys. I hope Chelsea lose and get absolutely battered. But the only thing that can let Chelsea down is they become complacent and think they won the tie. I mean, one thing you do have to face is Luis Suarez. I mean, he's old; he's 32 years old, but he is still a quality striker who will finish chances if you give him. So, as a rival fan, I want Atletico to go through. But if Chelsea just keep the defense strong, and there's no reason why they can go through. And I'm still on the boat, Terry, about Tuchel being overrated. But for me, this is still a manager bounce because I'm going to bring up Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his first 15 games. He was unbeaten as well. And look at the outcry now. So Tuchel still is in his first 12 games. We'll see how it goes in the new seasons. And if he can still continue that, he will get the funds and everything. But if he can continue that, then, Chelsea are on the way to becoming a top team again.
Yeah, I mean, there is the manager bounce thing. But do you know what I think? I want to make sure I articulate this in the right way. It hasn't been a manager bounce where you've seen scintillating, barnstorming, big wins. It's just been a steady growth in quality in the team and a steady growth in togetherness and the system becoming more ingrained. If that makes sense. With Ollie, his first game, 5 goals, we were banging in goals, beating teams we shouldn't have been beating. You know, the Paris Saint-Germain thing, it was almost too spectacular. And if it happens again at a big club when a new manager comes in, I think we'll all recognize it a little bit more because the bounce was so it doesn't really feel like a bounce. It just feels like Chelsea just got better and better and better slowly. And that's the scary part, because that slow growth is sustainable, if that makes sense, because it isn't like just gone from being average to being amazing. The first few games, it was like, oh, I'm not too sure. And then it kind of clicked into gear. Latimer's Prime is with us. Monsoor, thank you very much for coming on, bro. And all your support really means a lot to us here. Twisted Bubba said, where's my membership tag gone? Means you haven't paid your membership, brother. If it's gone, you're green. If your membership badge is gone, it means that you haven't made your payment. So click on the link in the description below and re-sign up. Latimus, what are you here to say, bro?
I'm so looking forward to the game tonight against Atletico Madrid. It's going to be a great game.
You sound it.
What? No. I actually am looking forward to it. I genuinely am looking forward to it. I know they've got players coming back. I know they're going to pose a threat, and I think to me that's a bit of the enjoyment factor of it. Like no matter what they throw at us, we're still going through. I really don't even see them scoring tonight, and if they do, the score will be 1-1, and we're still going through on aggregate.
Prime would prefer 0-0 than Chelsea to win 4-0. I can see it. I can see it in his eyes. The tactical battle or the tactical masterclass from a 0-0 over a 4-0 drumming.
Prime, why are you so confident, Prime, that they can't beat you and they can't score against you?
I trust in Tuchel. I just got faith and belief in him and in the team. And again, look, this is football, anything can happen. And Simeone is a great manager, and they do have quality players. But I don't know. Because the first leg, we essentially got the job done. And yeah, they did have chances, and so did we. And on a different day, the score could have been 2-1 because Werner had.
I love how 1-0 is getting a job done. I love that.
So, Prime. I'm just looking for you to say what you kind of said. I've got faith in Tuchel. Say it with your chest.
I do.
We are better than Atletico Madrid. That's what you're saying.
Well, the thing is, like I said on the Chelsea show, I don't know if you guys have watched it. I said on the Chelsea show, second leg, if we go through, which we will, I want to face Bayern Munich. I want to face a PSG. I'm not worried about those teams.
Oh my God, stop talking, please.
We have a super chat here that says Tuchel is overrated, Terry. Does anybody on this thing think Tuchel's overrated?
I don't care how overrated. I don't even care how overrated he is. He's better than Lampard.
I know, but the thing is, for me, the whole Tuchel overrated thing is like, what? You think he can't? Well, what is overrated for? He's a good manager. No one's saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. No one's saying, he's going to go win the quadruple. That people are just saying he's a good manager and he's going to make Chelsea a good team again. You've seen what he did at Dortmund. You've seen what he did at PSG. He's a good manager. I don't see what people are saying he's overrated for.
May I ask what team he supports? Because if you're an Arsenal fan, you guys are all championing Arteta and you all championed Emery. If you're a United fan, you guys all rate Poch. And the guy's not amazing either.
Sorry, go on, KJ, go on.
No, I was just going to say, well, we don't all rate Poch Prime because you don't like to be tarred with the same brush as everyone else, didn't it? So
I forgot.
With a lot of these managers, they're nearly all in the same boat, barring Pep, Klopp, Allegri. How many of the managers have won what people consider to be one of the main four leagues and Champions Leagues? Like there aren't very many coaches now currently active at the highest level of the game that have done that. So they've all got these question marks over them, but nobody's claimed that Tuchel is as good as Pep, as good as Klopp on Fergie's level. So I don't get, like, they just said he's a very good manager, and he is. If he wins Premier Leagues, wins Champions Leagues with Chelsea, then he moves into that echelon of being a top manager. But I just think Tuchel actually gets so much. I know Don Carlo has won it, but Don Carlo's no longer managing at the. I know he's in an elite league, but he's managing Everton. He's not managing one of the top six. He's not managing one of the big teams in the other four leagues. So he's kind of outside that. He ain't on the top table, is what I'm saying. He ain't dining on the top table anymore. Can you imagine that? Ollie's on the top table and Don Carlo isn't. That's mad when you think about it out loud.
Put respect on Ollie's name.
But do you put respect on Ollie's name? I do respect Ollie, but I would never. Ollie's managing a top team now. but I won't put Ollie in the same breath as an Ancelotti, bruv. I don't care that he's as a footballer. Ollie for me is on par with, barring the true elites of the game, the Messis, Ronaldos, the Dans. Like Ollie's up there as a top class Premier League and European striker. As a manager, he can't talk to Ancelotti. He can't even talk to Tuchel yet. He can't in terms of achievements, and no one should be doing that. Like love or loathe him, can't be doing that.
I mean, Thomas Tuchel hasn't lost a league game since 2019, I think it is. So,
exactly. Do you know what it is? I think he's been tarred with the way way PSG have dropped out of Champions League a few times. I think he's kind of tarred because of that. I mean, if tonight, like you go 2-0 up and then you lose 4, like you can see loads of goals and go out, then it's going to follow him around a little. It's a bit like Poch losing to who the other day? Like Joe Poch is. They're called nonce.
They're called nonce, yeah.
No. Terry.
I do know. It doesn't mean the same.
I know, but still.
It just tickled me. That's funny. But that's right. Yeah, Nancy.
Nancy. We'll call him Nancy.
Yeah, that's a little bit easier. Nonce. Is that how it's pronounced? I didn't know that.
It's actually pronounced, yeah.
There we go. There we go. Make sure you're all smashing that like and that share button, people. Get that done right about now, please. Big game tomorrow as well. Man United versus AC Milan. How are you feeling ahead of that, KJ? Cavani now confirmed out injured, pulled up in the last training session. But Pogba and Donny are back. Pogba and Donny are back.
What I tell you about Cavani, brother, listen, I like what he's done for United, but at the start of the transfer window, I said, my man is just going to be injury prone. And guess what he's been? He's been injury prone. Like, the training session before getting on the plane, he gets injured. You couldn't write it. You couldn't write it any better, could you? Man, it's annoying. And, this whole debate about should we keep Cavani, should we say, get him gone, bro. Get him gone. Is it like literally? It's just like the wages are too much for him to be injured all the time, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, man's 35. No, he's not. That's a lie. But he's 33 or 34, man. Like, it's just But in terms of Pogba being back is a massive plus. Donny being back is a plus if he can get minutes. If he does in the game, that'll be a good sign. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough game, and if we can grab a goal early, I think we go on to win the game because they'll open up and then we'll go into our element, which is countering, being on the break and slicing through teams. Our away record this season is very, very good as well. Also, man.
Question for you here: should Ahmad start?
Considering the options that we've got now. Yes.
Oh God.
No. Considering the options, the options we've got are Marcus Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, Dan James, Diallo. There's only 5. You're telling me out of all of that, he can't get a start. It's just a start, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to start and win us the game and dominate. I'm not expecting him to do that.
I agree. I would start him, and then the hope is with Pogba's got to start this game for me. Ahmad should start. We know that Greenwood and Rashford are going to start. I would keep Dan James on the bench. If we can take the lead later on in the game when they're opening up, that's where Dan James is great to come on because that's when he's in his element, balls over the top. But Paul Pogba's going to be imperative. We need that extra from deep.
Martial's also injured. So, yeah, like, literally, it's out of Dan James or Diallo, which one you'd rather start.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I hear you on it. David, who do you think is picking up the win tomorrow night?
I'll go Milan. just to ruin the party. I want something to laugh. I want something to laugh at tomorrow. Plus, I'm scouting for my new goalkeeper. So
fair enough. How about yourself, Prime? Do you think Man United can do it, or do you think Milan will have too much at the San Siro?
I think he'll scrape through.
Scrape through.
Yeah. You're big Man United.
Big boy Man United.
We're not big boy Man United anymore, are we? We're a once great club. We're fallen from our graces. Listen, we're back tonight live after Chelsea versus Atletico Madrid. We actually got some super chats first. We're not ending now. It says here, unlucky for United. Zlatan coming back worried me.
With no Bailly, we're just gonna have Lindelof getting pushed around by this.
No, Zlatan's going to be like, if you want to stay in Sweden squad for the Euros, you best let me score.
But do you know what? These are, we spoke about earlier about like Werner with Ellie about Werner and Havertz. This could be a night to step up and make yourself be counted. This is when I look at Harry Maguire and say, you're up against Zlatan, put in a performance where you nullify him, and a lot can be forgiven by United fans. Because this is where you have to step up. It's like for everybody, every Man United fan that doesn't really know Bruno's a stat padder, have a good game and score a goal. It's an opportunity for you. Rashford banging the winner. Pogba, like there's so many Man United players that are disrespected by certain groups of Man United fans. What I love about games like tomorrow night, even tonight for Chelsea, when you've got players that are kind of getting disrespected, it's the opportunity to stand up and make yourself be counted. In so many ways. It'll be an intriguing night. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. We'll be live again after Chelsea, Atletico Madrid tonight. So make sure you're tuning in right here on the Football Terrace.
And then after that,
midnight vibes. KJ took a night off on Sunday, was it last Wednesday?
No, last Wednesday.
Last Wednesday was off, but he's back this Wednesday. Make sure you're tuning in at midnight. Until then, people, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. Smash that like.